computing, where we have different processes joining together to do a specific task, parallel processing, parallel systems is actually a subset of distributed systems or distributed computing. Parallel is a type of distributed computing, and because there is parallelism and people are processes are working in concurrency in parallel, the performance of the computer improves so much. As a result with which we can even call a parallel computer to be a high performance computer, and the popular colloquial usage is supercomputer. High performance computers are often colloquially called as supercomputers because of the fact that they work in parallel. They are able to do jobs in parallel. But having said that, it is not an easy job. When we are having computers in parallel, there is a huge degree of complexity that increases because of the parallel operation. So it is explained by Amdahl's law. That means, there are certain things that cannot be done in parallel. There are certain things that can be done in parallel. And I'll give you a simpler example. Before I go into the class, you might have heard about the roots of a quadratic equation, right? You have A, B, C. For the roots of the quadratic equation, you get the variables A, B, and C. You find the discriminant D equal to B square minus 4AC. I hope that is correct. D can be less than 0, then it is imaginary roots. D is equal to 0, it can be equal roots, and D greater than 0, real roots. We know this thing. Now, you can have a parallel processing of checking when the discriminant is equal to 0, it can go to one thread. When the discriminant is less than 0, it can go to another thread. And when the discriminant is greater than 0, it can go to another thread. So you can actually parallelize the program such that every movement of the discriminant, whether it is equal to 0, greater than 0, or less than 0, you can have one root for that. But then you cannot have A, B, C input in parallel. You need A, B, C to calculate D. So the inputting of A, B, C and the calculation of the discriminant B square minus 4AC has to be done in sequential. Maybe you can even do the D calculation in parallel 3 times, but then getting ABC, you cannot do it in parallel. So every program there will be a sequential part. Some part will be sequential. We cannot do anything about it. And the remaining part you can parallelize. And when you parallelize, there are a lot of complexities. I told you the example, somebody is making an Onam Sadhya. One fellow is making the highly complicated Avial. Another person is making the highly not so complicated Payasam. Then the simplest item will be probably the sambar, very simple compared to the other items in the Onam Sadhya. So the guy who is doing the avial will have more work to do. The guy doing the sambar will have the less work to do. And how much of work, how much to balance this work, how to keep the items together. Should the items be in a central location and the avial guy goes and collects the items, the sambar guy goes and collects the vegetables and so on. All that are issues of parallelism, how much granularity, what each person should do, how much each person should report, locality, load balance, coordination, synchronization. This is what I covered in the last class. Parallel programming is complex because these factors result in a lot of overhead, right? How much of granularity, how much of locality, how much of load balance, how much of coordination, how much of synchronization. So this crosses a lot of overhead, and that is why it is not a divisible factor. If you have 5 processors working in parallel, the work will not be reduced by 5 divided by 5. It may be divided by 2 or 2.5 or 3. That is where the Amdahl's law comes in, because there is a lot of overhead of parallelism. The overhead is in processes, communication, inter-process communication, shared variables, shared data, synchronization, and so on. And also memory, memory also could be like this, right? You have different, this is a simple storage. Now you have a interconnect, you have a layer in between the caches of memory, and it will be complicated, right? Now, today we'll just see the basic parallel architecture. You have so many processors, you have so many memory. Now the question is, you have an interconnection network connecting the processors together, connecting the memory together. Now, you may think, why can't this processor have a memory? This processor can have a memory, this processor can have a memory, this can, and they can share. But it really does not work that way. Memory can be centralized, memory can be distributed, memory can be shared, memory can be mirrored, and so many options are possible in parallel architecture. You can have each processor connecting to a memory and they are connecting to the other processors which have their own memory. Or you can have thin clients, no memory. None of the processors have any memory. They are all, the memory is all centrally located. So multiple architectures are possible. And multiple interconnections are possible. How you store the memory, how you place the memory, how you access the memory, how you physically locate the memory. So many architectures are possible. Now, the textbook gives some case studies of architectures, some with shared memory, that is the multi-core, like Intel Core 2 Duo, AMD Opteron, and SMP. They are following the shared memory. All the processors share the memory. Then there are parallel architectures which do not share the memory. They have distributed memory. Anybody can use anybody's memory, but their memory is distribution. Like these are heterogeneous systems like IBM Cell, clusters, supercomputers, and high performance computers. A simple architecture, Core 2 Duo. That means it's a single processor with two cores. Each core is like a processor. See how it is. Processor P0, processor P1. L1, these are the cache memories. L2 is another cache memory. You will find out that each processor has L1 individual cache memory, but the L2 cache is shared between both the processors. And there is a bus that is connecting between both the processors. Now, these processors generally divide their work among themselves. In some cases, I don't know if it is possible for Intel, but you can even have a master-slave relationship between the processor. P0 can be the master and P1 can be the slave, but I don't know whether it's exactly possible in this Intel Core Duo. Many processors have that master-slave relationship. Now SMP, symmetric multiprocessor. Here again, all processors are individual. They have their own L1 cache and L2 cache. It is not shared in this way. Here the L2 cache is shared. They are having individual, but all of them are connected through a common bus. And the memory also is shared. The memory locations are shared by all the processors. And processor 1, processor 0, 1, 2, 3, they all are connected together to the common memory towards using a bus. And this bus is also each cache snoops into the bus and to get some sort of coherence. So each cache will snoop or will listen to the bus so that they get all the locations, the most utilized memory locations are put in the cache. So each cache gets updated with the most recent and most popular memory locations by always snooping through this bus. This is how the SMP or the symmetric multiprocessor works. Now we need to build a parallel architecture model. It is ideal that we have, if we want to leverage the power of parallel architecture, we should be able to have multiple configuration machines connected together. I would ideally want to have an Intel Core Duo in one processor or one computer. I would like to have an SMP in another. The same requirement. I may want to have another configuration like a Sunfire, or I want to combine an AMD Opteron with a Sunfire with an IBM GL. I want to have multiple permutations and combinations of parallel architectures. Then only I can leverage. There may be advantages of the IBM BGL which I can use, but there are some disadvantages which I can manage through an AMD Opteron. And I think generally when we mix these parallel architectures, we may be able to get good performance. We may or may not, but the what should I say, the biggest supercomputers that we have seen, right? Where is the top 500? Generally they are very homogeneous. ARM, like Fugaku uses only ARM A64FX processors. But then in the interest of different types of applications, diverse applications, it is better to go, we can combine different architectures, and that brings to the concept of a candidate type architecture, a CTA model. In a CTA model, we can combine, we can have different types of architectures, and that's the idea, to develop a this thing. And most architectures are sequential. Most architectures. Sequential model means, typical CPU is there, ALU is there, memory is there, random access machine or random access memory is there. The computer has a clock cycle, fetching instructions, executing instructions, and so on. And generally at the computer architecture side, it is 3 address instructions and so on. We have learned these things in microprocessor. But can we have this sequential model? Can we parallelize this? Can we parallelize these sequential architecture, have different candidates in the architecture? So one I use an IBM, the next one I use an AMD, the next one I use an Intel. If I can combine these candidate type architectures, I may be able to get a better result for certain applications. And that's the idea of the PRAM, or the parallel architecture model. You have individual sequential machines like RAM, random access machines with RAM. You have many number of processors. All of them are working synchronously. There may be shared memory. There may be distributed memory, and you have different architectures which can be connected. See, P0 can be a different processor. P1 can be a different processor. P2 can be a different processor. P3 can be a different processor. This kind of candidate type architecture is the ideal way forward. You have multiple processors, but when you parallelize, right? When you parallelize, you are bound to have some sort of overhead, and that overhead is measured in terms of what is known as a latency. So most parallel computers, high performance computers, supercomputers come with a lambda value. It come with a latency value, and this lambda value is a measure. Latency means some sort of delay or delay in action, because of the fact that there is so much of parallel things. Each supercomputer comes with a lambda value. For symmetric multiprocessor like Sunfire, this is the lambda value. For CMP, AMD Opteron, this is the lambda value. For supercomputer, for 5000, this is the lambda value. So different lambda values means different latencies. Each latency will have its own advantages and disadvantages depending upon the application. So I'll close for today. Next class, I will take the memory location. Now, whatever I have taught till today, I want you to write a quiz on Monday. Tomorrow, of course, I will continue with memory, but that is not included in the quiz for Monday. Is it okay? Monday, do you have any other work? Is it fine? Students, please respond. Nobody is responding. Is it okay? Because see, the way things are going, I would think that by 15th or 20th September, the syllabus will be completely over. So I want to complete everything by that time, except for some assignment, except for an assignment that you will have to submit, and the midterm and the end term. So my plan is to finish the syllabus by September 20th or so. The syllabus is completed by September 20th. Before that, I complete all the quizzes. You will have one test based on the programming assignment, that is later. Only that will be after the midterm. The only things that will be there is this programming assignment and the enter. So you are free. Every single way you are completely free. That's the idea that I have. So Monday the quiz is fine, or you want Pragya? Is it
Sir,
fine?
have it on Tuesday. We have
Tuesday is also
we have,
fine. Fine. Tuesday is fine.
okay.
Okay. Sure. Monday you have some other thing?
Yes, sir. Monday second hour there is a quiz, and Monday lab also evaluation is there.
No problem. Tuesday we will have it. So maybe I think it's better to go fast and finish the syllabus, right? Or you want me to free hours? It's better to complete early, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can be
So
free
by
only.
15th of September we wind up everything, and then you can only midterm and end term will be there.